Okay, so I think it's all right for us to get started. What do you think, Rosie? Is this okay?
Yeah, let's get started. I'll let people in if they come a little late.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so thank you everybody for joining us. Like I said, it's our final Meet the Executives of the semester, and it's a wonderful theme. The theme of this event is diversity and inclusion, and we are so happy to have Scharrell Jackson and Regina Johnson with us today for this important topic. My name is Mark Wax. I am the moderator of this event, and I'm also the VP of Operations with the Leadership Scholars. I would first like to introduce you to the director of the Center for Leadership here on campus, Dr. Jay Barbudo. He works to bring unparalleled leadership enrichment to all of the engaged students who are here today. So Dr. Barbudo, if you'd like to say a few words.
Thank you, Mark, and welcome everyone to today's event. We have two of my very favorite people that I've had the privilege of meeting and working with here in Orange County, Scharrell Jackson and Regina Johnson. You're going to be amazed, just as I am, whenever I have the opportunity to interact with them. I'd also like to say to all of you, we at the center are here to help you, our scholars, connect, develop, and serve. And everything we do has some measure of connection, some measure of development, and some measure of service. And if you stick with us through between now and when you graduate, we're really confident we'll be able to give you a lot of incredible value added, proposition adding pieces to your career trajectory. We have an amazing team here at the center. I want to tell you about our team. Rosie Burkett is our event and program specialist. She oversees all of our student programs. And she, for those of you that are in our leadership group within our Leadership Scholars program, you would have the great opportunity to interface with Rosie on a very regular basis. She's a real superstar. We also have Danya Bari. She is our business and community specialist, and she brings all of our connections with industry, with companies. She oversees the TV show. She oversees our training division of the company as well. And she is also a star. We're so excited that you could be here today to help us welcome our guests and also develop some great insights and knowledge around diversity and inclusion. And with that, Mark, I'm going to turn things back over to you so that we can continue our development.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Barbudo. I would like to take this moment to talk a little bit about the Leadership Scholars and to introduce anybody who's new to our 5 boards. We encourage you all, once you become a Leadership Scholar, to join us in one of these boards and to help make an impact on campus. So first, just really quickly, we have Development, which develops and plans the interactive workshops that we offer on campus. Human Resources engages with all areas of membership, from inviting eligible scholars to join to awarding scholarships based on member participation. We have Marketing, essential to encourage new membership and get the word out about all the amazing and free opportunities the Center for Leadership provides for the campus community. We have Operations, which is responsible for organizing these Meet the Executive events, and our members engage directly with the executives and host the events. And Community Outreach, which partners with the community to create meaningful volunteer opportunities for our members to volunteer and give back. So I just want to quickly tell you about 2 more events that we have for the rest of the semester, just 2 more, and then end of the semester, and it's going to be a wonderful summer. And we would love to see everybody at these events. The next event is a social, which is happening Friday, May 7th from 11 a.m. to 12. And we also encourage you to join us for our next Letters of Love event, which is a community outreach event. And this is where we write letters of gratitude and encouragement to frontline workers. And this event will be held next Monday, on Wednesday, May 12th from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. So now I would like to, without further ado, pass it off to Selena Liu to introduce our first executive.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. Hello, everybody. I am beyond excited to introduce Scharrell Jackson to you today. She has had over 35 years in executive leadership experience, helping companies understand what diversity and inclusion means and how it can improve companies' performance. She then helps the companies execute diversity and inclusion initiatives properly. Previously, she was the COO at BPM LLP, a public accounting and advisory firm, and currently she serves as the COO of Lendistry. What got her dedicated to diversity and inclusion was her personal experience in the C-suite. She shared with me how she often led in environments where there was no one like her. There was a very obvious lack of diversity, and she was the only Black person in the C-suite. Jackson is also a speaker and executive training leader. She has led over 50 sessions with executives within the last year. And with her dedication to diversity and inclusion, she was the perfect match for me from the Executive Mentorship Program. I would like to give a really quick thank you to Dr. J and Rosie for pairing us, and also thank you, Scharrell, for spending your time with me, sharing your experience and advice with me. Scharrell shared with me some very valuable tips and advice on how to handle discrimination and how to advocate for diversity. In our most recent meeting, she also let me know about Leadership in Heels, which is a civic and social organization that she is the founder and CEO of. Leadership in Heels' mission is to motivate, inspire, and equip women to view and understand themselves as leaders and pivot their lives forward, both personally and professionally. On the Instagram account, which I will share the handle with you guys in the chat after this, on the Instagram account, she shares fun Monday motivational songs, Tuesdays tips of the days, and other just great inspiring messages. My favorite post reads, "Dear me, never settle for where you are. There's always the next move that will take you one step higher. Be ready, the best is yet to come." With this, I am excited to see how this event can benefit everybody. Please help me give a warm welcome to Scharrell Jackson.
Thank you, Selena. That's so sweet. I just love our relationship. But thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to contributing to the conversation and the learning today. But thanks.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Selena. Thank you, Scharrell. It is now my pleasure to introduce Regina Johnson. Ms. Johnson is the founder of Capitas Consulting, which helps companies scale and prepare for the future of work. Among other things, with Capitas, she provides executive coaching on transformation in the workplace to achieve a more positive work environment. She has more than 20 years of international leadership experience and is passionate about helping leaders and organizations obtain their true potential by developing strategy, designing frameworks, and creating innovative talent approaches that center diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as corporate social responsibility. Regina Johnson is also the Chief Human Resources Officer of Marketcast, which is a research and analytics organization specializing in the ever-changing landscape of all things fandom. We are all fans of something, and fandoms can connect people with shared passions and build communities. Marketcast also does pro bono market and insight research regarding such relevant topics as representation in the media and makes the information available to organizations to make positive changes. Additionally, Regina is a board member of the Moxie Exchange, a woman-owned technology and learning organization dedicated to driving equity and inclusion in organizations big and small. She is passionate about community service and supports the Boys and Girls Club in Long Beach, the Harbor Regional Center, and Base 11. As you can see, Regina Johnson is many things, and we are so happy to have her here with us to share her vast knowledge base and passion for making the world a more inclusive place. So thank you so much, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction, Mark. Wonderful to be here.
Awesome, thank you. We are now going to utilize the Leadership Scholars Board to ask questions to our executives. We encourage our board members to introduce themselves, their major, and their expected graduation year before addressing their question to the executives. All of our questions will be for each of the executives, and please feel free to answer them in whatever order you like or discuss between yourselves. It's completely up to you. For all of our student guests with us today, take note of any questions you have during our Q&A period, and you will have the opportunity to individually ask your questions during our breakout room session afterwards, where we will split up into 2 breakout rooms and spend time with each executive. So our first question is going to be asked by Sherry.
Hi, thank you so much for this opportunity to let me ask this question. Ms. Jackson and Ms. Johnson, my name is Sherry Richner. I am currently a marketing major and I'm in my 3rd year of school. And my question for you today is, how does diversity and inclusion fit into your current role within your companies?
Wonderful. Scharrell, do you want me to start or?
Sure, no worries.
All right, I'll go ahead and begin. And thank you so much, Sherry, for the wonderful question. So diversity and equity and inclusion is actually core in what I do, both at Capitas and Consulting, also as the Chief Human Resources Officer at Marketcast. So how does it work within my particular role? We really look within the human resources organization to make sure that we're aligned with whatever the business needs are. And we look at what their strategies are as it relates to growth. But when we come up with solutions, that's where diversity, equity, and inclusion is top of mind for us. And what I mean by that is, if we're looking to grow as a company, we need talent. And so in that, our ability to bring the most diverse, best talent into the organization is key and critical. Because we provide research and insights to all things fandom, as an example, that means we need to know all the audiences. We need to know all the nuances of every person and what their desires are and what they really, really are passionate about. The only way to make sure that we understand that is having a diverse team. So that would be one example in which, these are kind of core to what we do. So I actually lead the efforts for diversity, equity, and inclusion within my organization. And we have built out a strategy at Marketcast, not only in terms of how we think about talent in the organization, proper development, but also how we actively engage out in our communities and with our clients. And so we look at diversity, equity, and inclusion in all of those lenses, and how we partner with our clients, how we represent the end consumer, how we represent our teams and our people. So that's essentially how it works for me. And Scharrell, I'll turn it over to you.
Absolutely. That was great, Regina. I think, obviously I would concur with everything that Regina said, but for me also, I would just add that as an executive leader in an organization, it fits within the very fabric of everything that I do, because ultimately to drive and lead an organization that where you want your organization to win, you have to have all of the players at the table. And the best way that you're going to win is through diversity of thought. And you can never have diversity of thought if you align yourselves with people who are like you. So when you think about your own individual friend base, if we just want to break it down beyond your organization, you tend to become friends with individuals who are like you. But now when you take that back to your ability to grow, you're not necessarily being fed the information that's beyond the way you already think. Well, it's the same thing within an organization. As a strategic thought leader, it is critical that we drive our organizations to have diversity of thought. And that means that in everything we do, we need to have diversity of people. And it's not just what we typically think about diversity as it relates to Black, white, or what we consider to be race, but it is everything. It is our culture, it is our class, it's where we live, it's our economic systems, it's our background, it's our experiences. And so for me, when I'm driving an organization, I am always asking my leaders whether or not their leadership team and their team align with who they are. And most people want to bring on and hire people that they like, that they're comfortable with. Right away, that lets me know that I have a leadership issue. And so the way that it fits into my role is to have my leaders always thinking outside of the box in everything we do, whether it's our strategy to bring in people, our go-to-market strategy with the type of customers that we serve, the vendors and our partnerships that we have in our community, and the organizations in which we serve within our community. And so for me, as a strategic thought leader, it's very important that in every single sector of our business, we are always thinking with diversity in mind.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. Our next question is going to be asked by Selena.
Hi, my name is Selena, and I'm currently a second-year business major who just declared a concentration in accounting. So I plan to be graduating in 2023. And my question is, when did you start becoming interested in working with diversity and inclusion, and why?
Well, I guess I'll start this one off, Regina. I guess for me, I don't know that it was always coined as diversity and inclusion. Look, I'm 55 years old, so there are a lot of things that have evolved over time. But what I can tell you is that I was always a unicorn. And what I mean by that is that I was always classified as different and or I felt different. So it was really, really important to me that I found my sweet spot with people. And I never really felt that I was the same. I never really felt like I fit in. So I think from the entree into this world, I thought about diversity and inclusion, although it may not have been coined as diversity, inclusion, and belonging. And so for me, just entering into that in terms of my career, the reason why I did it was because I always felt alone. I felt like I was almost that individual that really stuck out. I was different. My personality was different. I looked different from where I grew up. I thought different. And I grew up in South Central LA. I was a very high academic person. Most of the people around me were not. Then I moved into Orange County. I was the only Black. Most of the people were white. And so it was really, really important to me that I could find my sweet spot. And I believe that having those experiences as a youth, as I entreed into my career in the corporate environment, it was important to me. It was imperative to me that I ensured that all people felt like they belonged, because I knew what it was like to feel like I don't belong. And belonging isn't just about race, right? I mean, think about the times when you haven't been invited to the party. Somebody was, discounting you or you felt left out. That's the same way it is when you don't belong and it lacks diversity. So for me, it's always been part of the fabric of my life and very, very important in the businesses that I run and lead.
That's so beautiful, Scharrell. That speaks volumes.
It's the truth, girl.
Yes, I know it is. And I hear you on that. And so to Scharrell's point, I think, for me, there wasn't a real point in time. I think it started even in childhood. So, it got me thinking, Scharrell, what you were just talking about, your life experiences. I grew up both in the United States, but also overseas. So I lived in places like Saudi Arabia. I lived in places in Africa. I lived in Europe as a kid for a period of time. And in each of those different places, I really got to see the differences in how people lived, cultures and backgrounds. And I was always curious around, people and individuals, and also having the ability to connect with others. And I think in that, especially when I came back into the United States growing up, I really had a very distinct experience in understanding that broader cultures globally, have a different way in their views and relationships than how we do even here in the United States. And so that always stuck with me as I continued to pursue in my academics. And I, was in cities that were very, very diverse and went to schools that were very, very diverse. And I also went to schools where I was literally the only person of color in the entire school. And so having those different experiences has really shaped in how I think about, how do we help everybody kind of, connect, belong, and feel that they're the best selves. And so when I started to graduate out of college and get into the work environment, I felt very fortunate to join a company called Bank of America that really focused in on what was diversity and inclusion and how were they bringing that to life within their company and within their organization. And so that company really also helped shape me around the building blocks on how do you ensure that there's representation in the room? How do you ensure people's voices are heard, people not over talking others? How do we build those relationships so that we're building high performing teams? So it's in all of those experiences that I would say really helped shape and influence my passion around ensuring that that is always part of the work that I do as a leader, within the corporate world.
All right, thank you so much. Our next question is going to be asked by Tiffany.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tiffany. I am a second year business major. I actually am an HR concentration, so this is fun. And my question for you guys today is, why is it important to consider diversity when putting together a team or during hiring?
So I'll go ahead and get started. It really is essential, quite frankly. I think that, back to what Scharrell had mentioned, we tend to have our own kind of biases, right, around what our preferences are, what our likes are. And those are based on life experiences. They're based on a variety of reasons as to why they came into being. But if we think about what it means in the work environment is whatever it is that we produce is towards a better common goal, right? It's for something, it's for a client, it's for the betterment of a community, it's for something. So if we think about these types of solutions being for the betterment of whatever that is, that means that end constituent base has to be really thoroughly thoughtful and thought out. And what I would tell you is, hiring is one of the most essential things you can do within a company, right? And ensuring that you can make the best products or provide the best services to an organization and continue to ensure that the business grows and thrives. So with the people being the core essence, right, the core asset of an organization, you need to ensure that you've got the best talent possible. Best talent means you're able to have different backgrounds, different perspectives, different experiences, so that all of that broad, diverse background and knowledge can be translated into the work. That's the thing I think sometimes people forget as you think about how business runs. People run the business, right? People are the business. And the more diverse you have, employee base that you have ensures you're taking advantage of all of the great benefits and expertise that the people bring to bear. So that's why it's so critical when you think about having diverse and equitable and inclusion practices and processes within an organization is so imperative.
Yeah, I agree completely, Regina. And I also would add that just from a strategic perspective in running a business, it is just the smart thing to do because it drops to the bottom line. I mean, let's just keep it real. We are in business to make money. And quite frankly, when you have a linear customer base or a linear employee base, you're going to have a linear customer base. Your employees are only going to go after the customers in which they feel the most comfortable working with. If you only focus on one particular region in the nation, then you're at risk when that region has some sort of an economic downturn. So it's really important that if you're going to broaden and cast a wide net, you have to start with your employee base, and you have to be willing to bring people on board that are from all different shapes and likes of the world, and then be able to have an amazing training program internally to create collaboration and an ability to see what we have in common versus what we are different. And I think that not only in doing that, when we start to care about each other inside of our organization, that'll broaden our perspective about people outside of our organization, because again, most of our networks are more aligned with who we are as individuals. That's why it's so hard for us to empathize with people that are not like us. But when we really start with our hiring, it means that we're going to broaden everything within our organization. We're going to increase our customer reach, which means it increases our sales, which means that it drops to the bottom line. I mean, when I've been coaching, I was sharing with Selena, I did about 50 talks over this whole past year as a result of the whole Black Lives Matter. And 99.9% of my customers are white men, and they really want to implement diversity and inclusion in their organization. Well, when we start talking about what that looks like for them, it starts with hiring. Well, how many Black people do you have in your company? Well, really none. Well, what do your customers look like? Well, our customers really are Black. Well, what do your vendors look like? Okay, so not only is it for some people uncomfortable, but when you start talking about what the common denominator for all of us is, and that's economic wealth, well, now you're talking. So when we start talking about, well, just think about the reach of people that you could get if you had somebody who looked like or who communicated like them, whether it's in rural places, whether it's, different races, African-American, Asian, Indian, Hispanic, it really doesn't matter. So the lights turn on for individuals who may not want to do it for the right reason, but they will do it for the economic reason. And at the end of the day, there's a broad reason why we want to make sure that our hiring strategy has diversity and how it impacts the organization. And it's a myriad of things. A, it's the right thing to do. B, it increases your employee pool and your strategic thinking. C, that opens up the window for a broader customer base. And D, it drops down to the bottom line. So whatever the reason is that you can get to people to consider diversity, there's a myriad of reasons on why we should, but ultimately it's going to benefit everybody involved, including the bottom line of the organization. And some people really just care about the money. So you really have to meet people where they are when you're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, because while it sounds, nice and sexy, and it's been the thing that's been across, all of our televisions for the last year, that doesn't move everybody. But when you start talking about and meeting people where they are, there is a benefit to have diversity, equity, and inclusion, even if it's not the same for every person.
All right, thank you so much. I will be asking the next question. So just to reintroduce myself, I'm Mark Wax, and this is my second year for a business administration degree and concentration in human resources. So go HR. And I'll be graduating in 2023. So my question for you both is, what inclusive practices does your company engage in currently, and how have they worked?
Well, I could tell you, I just recently started a new organization, Lendistry. I've been with them literally 3 weeks. I'm in an organization, quite frankly, that feels like home, because foundationally, I believe that everybody should have access to wealth and opportunity to soar, succeed. And I'm with an organization that offers that. But as you guys heard, I led CPA firms for 21 years. That's less than 1% Black. And I was the only C-suite in the world of the top 100 firms. And we're talking the top 100 firms, not the small mom and pop firms. And really didn't even ever think about the impact it would have when I exited, until I got a call from the president of the AICPA, because now there are no Black C-level executives. But when you think about, the company that I'm in today, we are intentional about it. I mean, literally, I'm about to hire 400 people. And with the growth trajectory of the organization, I was very clear that I want us to hit every state. I want to make sure that we represent every race. And I want to make sure that we have the appropriate representation of gender. And every hiring leader is tied to their compensation. And so if you're not interested in doing that, it's very, very important. Our CEO, we are all about access to wealth for all people. And I'm in an organization that foundationally is working to help the underserved, which is why I went there. And so the organization I'm in today is phenomenal. It is the fabric of the organization, and it's represented at the executive level and across every level of the organization. But historically, that wasn't always the case in organizations that I was leading. And I'm grateful that I'm currently in an organization where we thrive and we drive based on diversity, and it works for the organization.
And Scharrell, congratulations.
Thank you.
Wait to hear more. So from my vantage point, Mark, thanks so much for the question. I also am relatively new to Marketcast. I joined in February, but I can tell you what we've done since I joined. And here's what I love about the organization. The CEO and the leadership have been really focused in on this and have wanted to make sure that there was a level of energy and what I would say kind of teeth, right, in how we were thinking about diversity, equity, and inclusion within Marketcast from a client point of view, from an employee base, as well as from a community perspective. So we rolled out our diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy at the end of the first quarter to our broader employee base and talked about, what the key themes were that we were really focusing on that were top of mind for us and how we were going to make sure that those were activated, within the company. We ensured that diversity is actually part of a core value. So in our core values, that is part of who we are at Marketcast. And so when we think about what that means that lens, as I mentioned before, is going to permeate in everything that we do. We've also had a commitment to looking into all of our processes, the talent side, the development side, anything that we feel that we need to ensure from a process perspective works well and mitigates any issues with respect to bias and ensures we, again, are bringing the most diverse talent into the organization. And that is actually really critical for Marketcast, because I think, as I mentioned to you before, we are focused in on how to provide the voice, right, to fans, right? Fans of movies, fans of film, fans of sports, fans of travel, fans of barbecue. I mean, fans of tech, fans of gaming, anything that people are really passionate about. We are the ones who are providing those unique insights and the voice of them. So that is a huge responsibility when we think about what that means, right? In terms of how we partner with our clients and also what it means for the end impact in doing right by our communities. So in that, some of the things that we are doing, in addition to processes and making sure we are mitigating anything that would bring unconscious bias in, we are ensuring we're providing, development that is thoughtful in mind, right, to our teams and our employees, right, thinking about it holistically around the individual versus just a blanket way of developing. We have also set goals as it relates to having gender parity in with 50-50 women in our leadership across the board, top to bottom, but also in our leadership ranks, all the way up, that we want to see gender parity, and we made that commitment. And in addition, making sure that we're, demographically diverse, across all of our sites and locations, and we're looking at it not just from a totality point of view, but also within each of our offices and divisions, so that we're really thinking about this holistically. We are also engaged in making sure that we're going to provide, actually, or produced our first, diversity report next month in June. We're already getting close to May. And that's going to tell you how we're essentially laying the foundation as it relates to what we set in our strategy and where we're going on our 5-year goals and marks from there. The last thing I would say that I also think is also very unique to this organization is we also believe in how we are giving back into the community. So separately, when we think about things like Day of Service, we are doing those things as well, but we're also doing pro bono research, and we're partnering with organizations, again, giving voice to things that matter. So as an example, we published a report on athlete activism, and this was done by our Marketcast colleagues that were focusing in and wanting to understand how activism in sport across all the different sports groups has helped, right, as it relates to racial and social justice issues. We have another report that will be coming out later this month on representation. And so these are things that we're doing, for free. We're making sure that this is available, right, to community leaders. They're out to, it's made public to anybody. And it's bringing, again, voice into what we're seeing around fans, consumers, and what's happening in real areas, things that matter. So those are the things that we've already started. So, we are going fast to work. And I'm just really excited about the progress actually that we've already been making since I joined.
All right, thank you. Our next question is going to be asked by Bettina.
Hi, everyone. First off, Ms. Johnson, Ms. Jackson, it's a pleasure to meet you both today. My name is Bettina Kalakian, and I am a first-year business student planning to graduate in 2024, and I'm interested in majoring in HR and/or marketing. So my question is, what areas do you see for growth in your company for diversity and inclusion?
Well, in my company, every area. I mean, quite frankly, I everything from the administrative clerk all the way to the executive vice president of sales. I mean, we're hiring across the board. It's a rapidly growing organization, and that's just our business model. We're a fintech for underserved communities, and most underserved communities are Black and brown people. And so it's important to us that the fabric of our organization look like the people that we serve. So it's really a no-brainer for us in terms of, I'm actually looking to fill the pipeline in HR. So I'm gonna be calling Regina first. She can help me do that. And then recruiters and HR people, and really looking to be intentional about diversifying my recruiters and my HR business partners so that the go-to-market strategy represents what we want the organization to look like. So it's across the whole organization at every level with intention.
And to Scharrell's point, I would absolutely agree. It's the same for us as well. So, all of our roles and opportunities are areas in which we can continue to ensure we're making all of the right decisions as it relates to diverse talent within the organization. And so, what does it mean as we think about, Bettina, some of the areas of field of study you have as we think about HR and as we think about marketing? Well, one, I can't say enough praises about our marketing organization. They are phenomenal, and they're a phenomenal team. But we do have a growth trajectory in the business. We will be growing pretty significantly over the next several years. And so opportunities within marketing, within HR will be available. I would also say if you have a bent on research or areas that tie into marketing and research, we also have a lot of opportunities there for individuals who are interested in engaging in those types of opportunities. And we're building out our technology capabilities as well. So, sales, research, HR, marketing, it's all across the board. We're going to have those opportunities, because we are growing as a business and as an organization. And so the sky's the limit with us as well.
Right, thank you. Our next student presenter will be Charles.
Hi, I'm Charles Frosto. I serve on the marketing board. I'm currently a sophomore working on my business degree with a concentration in marketing. I just want to say, Regina and Scharrell, thank you so much for your time. I'm learning so much throughout the session. My question for you both is, how can considering diversity and inclusion in a business strategy make a business stronger?
I'll go ahead and start. It's crucial for us for our business strategy because for several reasons. One, when you think about, the fact that research, right, is meant to provide insights, and that could be true quantitative, qualitative research methods, could also be things that tie into, artificial intelligence or other data science capabilities. And we all know those methodologies, right, to help enhance and make sure that we're getting validity, right, in terms of, of the voices and trends and themes. But what I would also tell you is that, just like you would see within artificial intelligence and things like that, you have to have diverse perspectives to make sure you're interpreting the data and the trends. That's the whole point around the insight strategy. And so having the thoughts around, making sure you have different points of views, attributes, backgrounds, being able to stress test, right, those insights and validate the data and make sure that we're really thinking through what those trends are, ensures that we're delivering a better product, a better solution, and a better service essentially for our clients. We can't do that if we don't have diversity, right, within our talent pool, and diversity also embedded within the business strategy. And I can tell you, as when we partner with our clients specifically, they look to us to make sure that we're providing insights that they don't normally think about. And the only way we can really do that is if we've got a workforce that's really focusing in on understanding what they do within the business and bringing in their backgrounds and expertise to also get them to think through other capabilities and other insights that they may not have already thought through. And then from a broader enterprise long-term strategy as a business, that is core to what we do. It's in our core values. We have diversified as a business, right? We had first started really in our core business around media, film, and entertainment. And we've diversified into sports, into lifestyle brands, tech and gaming, kids and youth and generational research. And the reason we've done that is because we understand the methodologies we have are sound, but the strategies to diversify make the most sense for our growth and our capabilities to serve our clients.
Now that's excellent. I'm a little distracted because I have a crying grandbaby in the background. So, she's screaming for her nana. But but I think I echo everything that Regina said, and I also just add to that when you think about diversity and inclusion in your business strategy, to her point, it really does make your business stronger because you're never when it comes to the market share, you don't put all of your investments in one space. I can think about when I was starting in one organization and we were heavily concentrated in the real estate industry. And the first thing that I was asking was questions around, okay, well, why aren't we in this industry and why are we in that industry? I mean, just being strategic about how you penetrate the marketplace, well beyond the fabric of your people, but penetrating the marketplace so that every single industry has its ups and downs. And you want to make sure that when you're building out your organization, that you have long-term sustainability right? And so in order to do that, you've got to be in multiple sectors and multiple industries at the same time, so that if the real estate market tends to crash or the technology market crashes, you're in food and beverage, you might be in hospitality, you may be in manufacturing and distribution. So the key is, from a business perspective, that you always want to strategize what we would call your revenue stream, regardless of what it is that you're doing. And that also impacts the type of people that you're going after in terms of your client base. And then that backs into what I've already mentioned in terms of the type of people that you have on the bench, your bench strength. You know, one of the things that I think is the most advantageous about diversity and inclusion, beyond the fact that it's just a fair and right thing to do, is that it gives us an ability to make sure that we have individuals on the bench, on the team, in our surroundings that can watch out for our blind spots. I'm not going to see the same things that Andrew sees, that Tiffany sees, that Janet sees. Our peripheral vision is different based on our economics, based on our backgrounds, based on our culture, based on our race, based on our religion. And so our perspectives in some instances can be linear. The more exposure we have, the broader that we are. Well, that goes right into your leadership. But when you have a myriad of people, a diverse group of people working with you, then you have people who are looking out for your blind spots. And the language becomes, when I don't see it, Maribel, make sure if you see it, let me know. The key is that we are watching out for one another, because we all have different sites in which we utilize our eyes, our mind, our ears. And so when you have a strategy to build an organization, you want to make sure that you have all of your bases covered. That's your people, that's your clients, that's the industries in which you serve. And then you build your organization around that. And at the end of the day, regardless of what is happening, you may lose one person, you have other people who can backfill. You lose one client, you have other clients. You lose an industry, you can penetrate other industries. So I think it's very, very important when we think about diversity, especially as you're moving into your careers and you graduate, that is more than just how we look on this page, you know, these squares on this Zoom, but it's beyond that. And that we have to diversify in all areas of our life in order to make sure that we have somebody watching out for our blind spots and that we're fully covered.
Great, thank you so much. It looks like we have time for just one more question. So I'm going to pass it off to Selena.
Awesome. Thank you again. Hi again. This time my question is, how would you advise students to advocate for diversity and inclusion policies at their future places of work?
That's a tough one. I'll be very candid with you, because it really does have a lot to do with leadership. But I would say, as you all are entreeing into your workplace, your career, jobs, what it is that you want to be when you grow up, set the standard and the boundary before you take the job. Don't just take the job because you graduated from school and rule number one says now you have to get a job and you have to make X number of money. Consider who you are as an individual and what is important for you. And I will tell you, and I've said this all the time, from raising my children to anybody that works with me, it's better to stand for something and stand alone than stand for nothing and stand in the crowd. And if you want to advocate for diversity, you've got to be willing to stand, even if you are the only one. And once you do that, you will not only be seen as someone who is strong and who is bold, but you will be seen as a leader. And while everybody may not receive it, everybody will respect it. And so if you want to be an advocate, it's not just standing up for what is right, but it's also about making sure that you don't tolerate what is wrong. And so many times when we talk about diversity, inclusion, and belonging, when we talk about racism versus an anti-racist, some people will be quick to say they're not a racist, but are they an anti-racist? Meaning when you hear those conversations in the room, when you hear things said about people, and it's not just about race, it could be about size, shape, sexuality. Are you tolerating those conversations? So it's really, really important that if you want to bring something along with you, then you've got to stand for it and be clear on what you stand for. And I guarantee you, there will be no stopping you on your way to the top. But set the precedent early when you entree in and be clear on who you are and what you want, and don't compromise. I promise you, it's going to come. If it's not the first job, it's going to come at the second. But once you compromise who you are, you will spend a lifetime learning how to undo that. So that would be the way that I tell each person that I speak with to set the precedent and bring diversity and inclusion into your personal life and into the organizations in which you serve.
Well said, Scharrell, well said. And I would just add, two things when I think of your question. One is policy, right? And then one is culture. So when I think about policy, back to what Scharrell said, right? As you're thinking about an opportunity, look at the handbook, right? They'll usually send you a copy as you're thinking about, what that organization's like. When you interview with individuals, they'll also give you a sense on how those policies work, right? How do they show up, right? And within the work environment. So there are things you can do kind of on the front end to understand a company as it relates to their policies, what they have and they don't have, before you choose to say, yes, I want to be able to work, here with this organization. The second piece I want to talk about is culture. And I think what you heard loud and clear with Scharrell were very good, tangible examples of then where things beyond policy, but are cultural, start to show up, let's say within the workplace. And then how do you think about in those instances, right? Where do you want to be, right? In that situation scenario. So back to what, she had mentioned, if we think about, as an example, somebody's in a meeting and you see a colleague who was talking and somebody talks over and interrupts and intercedes, a way to be able to then, find yourself in that space is stand up and have the ability to say, hey, in this instance, so-and-so was talking, let's make sure to be able to give the person space so that you're able to kind of create that environment. There are ways you can do these things as an individual where you can create the space for inclusion, right? If you see it not necessarily working the way that maybe the company's envisioned it, right? If you're within an organization. And I would also say, partner with HR, right? One of the best things you can do if you're curious about things, both from a policy, but also a cultural perspective, if you're in an organization, talk to the people in HR about it. There are instances, let's say, where a company may be early in its career, right, on bringing the company towards a more diverse and inclusive workforce. And if you want to be a part of that, then being able to connect with HR and talking about ways to make the work environment better is a great way to do it, because 9 times out of 10, HR is also wanting those advocates within the business side to be able to engage and to be a partner and to be a champion in these areas. Diversity, equity, and inclusion doesn't just sit within the HR function. It is everybody's role. It is everybody's opportunity. But if we also think about the ways in which we can support the infrastructure and support the culture on that, having HR as a partner, I think, is always a great way, to be able to connect and make sure that you advise if you see that there's some gaps as it relates to policy or cultural attributes.
Great point, Regina. Thank you.
Okay, well, this concludes the Q&A portion of the event. Thank you both so much for all of your thoughtful answers. We're now going to break out into breakout rooms, and the students, you will stay within your breakout room and the executives will be moved. So just take note of at the top of the screen when it gives you that little bit of a warning and it says 30 seconds. So just to know, and then you'll be whisked away right after that timer goes down. So, okay, Rosie, whenever you're ready.
Left the session. Or...
All right, it looks like they're all here. Okay, perfect. Go ahead, Mark, and take us away.
Yeah, so that concludes our Meet the Executives. We want to have a special thank you to Scharrell Jackson and Regina Johnson for joining us. Thank you so much for all of your insight and for joining us for this wonderful meeting. So thank you all the students as well. I know that it's a busy time of year, and so just stay strong. You're almost to finals, and thank you everybody so much.
Are we doing a group picture before we go?
Jasmine just reminded us, let's do
Sure,
it.
we can do that.
Can somebody take a screenshot? Sorry, I'm on the work computer and I don't know how to screen. Oh wait, I know how to. Just kidding.
Okay.
Okay, Bettina, you do it. Go ahead. I don't want to mess
it up. Sure, for sure. All right, let me just pull this up.
All right, everyone, pretend you're happy.
All right, everybody, I'll count us off in 3, 2, 1. All right.